Welcome to the best recap of Husker sports, Husker Rewind, with your hosts Tom Stevens and Mike Melby.
Welcome to the circus.
Steps, throws down the field, the pass is intercepted, picked off by Sierra Wright to the 30, 25, 20, Sierra down the near sideline, 20, 10, 5, touchdown Nebraska. Sierra Wright with a pick six for Nebraska.
Here comes the serve. Straight ahead, past Schumacher, set in the middle, Schmeck, out of bounds. We're done. Huskers win. Call it, grandkids. Nebraska sweeps Wisconsin on the road, no less.
And for the first time in 41 years, Nebraska knocks off the top-ranked team in the country, and they are storming the floor. They are storming the floor. They are storming the floor. Love it. Sign your name, Fred Hoiberg. There's your signature win.
Breaking ball, that's looped in left field. Gabe Swanson is there. He squeezes it, and your Huskers are Big Ten champions. After losing game one Tuesday night, they come back and win 5 straight and capture the Big Ten tournament for the first time since joining the league. And the dog pile is ongoing in front of the plate.
Now, here's Tom Stevens and Mike Melby on 1499.3 KLIN.
Just made Franklin the slide. Robinson, block back. Golden Bearcats. They did it. Nebraska sweeps Wisconsin for the third time this season. And hello, Louisville. The Big Red Baphomet belongs. The Final Four, number 18 in school history. 26-24, 25-17, 25-21. And that's a happy bunch of hugging Huskers.
There you go. Nebraska goes to the Final Four again, 7th time, and I think 18 seasons. JB said, welcome in Tom Stevens, Mike Melby, Husker Rewind on a glorious Sunday for Nebraska volleyball. Man, you put John Cook in a situation where he's going to the Final Four, and it's almost automatic anymore. Nebraska hits 275 in that second set, or actually through the first 2 sets. They win 26-24, 25-17, and 25-21, and sweep Wisconsin 3 times in a season. They out-hit them 210 to 126. They out-dug them. They out-blocked them 12-9. That, Mike Melby, was fun.
That it was. That was dominant. It was impressive. It was everything. I think it was everything that nobody expected. Another sweep.
Yeah.
Holy smokes. I know we've got a pretty special guest to jump on and talk some volleyball too.
One of the great middle blockers in Nebraska volleyball history, Tanya Taki, of course, the head coach also at Nebraska 1. That was fun, Tanya.
So fun. So fun.
What was your favorite thing about today?
I mean, there was a moment, my favorite thing that I'll never forget ever is that there was a moment that my dad and my husband and I all locked elbows and said, we are going to make sure that Taylor Landfair plays better starting right now. And we never stopped cheering for her. We yelled for her. We told her to play defense. We told her, go high, go hard, just keep going. And we never stopped cheering for her. And she ended up with like 13 kills on the night. 13
kills. She hit 267. And she's been smiling. You didn't see that smile when she played for Minnesota, even though she was an All-American. She's truly having fun. And even though she hasn't played great, and you've talked about that, she played really, really well today.
Yes, we needed her to show up. They just have a very high block touch point, and you can see, Harper was having a hard time with that block, and then Taylor was able to just make something happen over the top of the block, and then Taylor also had 2 rotations with the setter, so then she was just a little bit more effective. But I also watched her play some defense. She got some big blocks. She got some big block touches. Wisconsin is so tall and jumps so high that I think just having a player like Taylor Landfair be able to make her presence known was a huge difference in the game.
Tanya Taki-Dorn from Nebraska 1 Volleyball, former Husker middle blocker, joining us on the Hunt Irrigation Talk and Text line. Don't know if you've seen this yet, but Emily Eamon has just sent out a tweet a couple of minutes ago. Well, I guess it was a couple hours ago. And the quote is, I mean this fully when I say that Lexi Rodriguez is the best player in NCAA volleyball, period.
Yes.
It's time for her to be like National Player of the Year. Would they give a libero National Player of the Year?
I mean, I think the thing that Lexi has going for her is that she's been so good for so long that it's hard not to notice her now. Like, you know, maybe if she was only good like 1 year, you know, then it's hard to give the Player of the Year to a libero. But since she's been consistent over 3 years, it just seems like she has to be part of the conversation as the best player in the country.
It's so deflated. I mean, talk about that as a player, to have a block or to have a kill that you know is down, and yet it's not, because you have somebody so good on the other side like Lexi.
Yes, I mean, the balls that she's bringing up, and then, you know, it's not just Lexi, but it's also how she's running the defense in the back. You know, like you'll watch her say, hey, on this next ball, I'm going to take the corner. That means you have to take the cut. Or then the next ball, I'm going to take the cut. So then you have tips. Like, just working through the different scenarios. And I think her and Jalen have a very special relationship. Jalen's the man that he's the assistant coach, and he has the game plans. Like, he stays up and watches film, so he knows where Schreck's going to hit. He knows where Robinson is going to take the ball. And so he's relaying that information to the blockers and also Lexi. You know, they even have a secret handshake. They just have a really good connection going where Jalen tells Lexi, hey, this is what's going to happen. And Lexi tells the defense, this is what we're going to do about it.
Tanya, let's go back to Volleyball 101. You teach it so well. You just threw out some terms with I'm going to take the cut and et cetera. What do those terms mean for average passionate volleyball fans that maybe don't know the game as well?
Yeah, so anytime that you're hitting inside of a block, so if you're coming around as a hitter and you're watching, you know, you're setting up your defense, you have a block set up, and then it's called a cut when you cut inside the block. So for us, you know, one of the best players at the cut shot is actually Sarah Franklin. Like, she can go, they call it 4-4. So she's in zone 4 and she's hitting to the zone 4 on the other side. That's called a cut shot. And that's where Lexi Rodriguez plays defense. She plays defense in the cut, but she's also working with the front row outside hitter when Sarah Franklin is the outside hitter on the other side. Lexi is communicating with our front row left side hitter to say, hey, this is what we're going to do against Sarah Franklin in this situation, because she's passing, so she's probably going to hit the deep corner. So I'm going to rotate to the deep corner. That means you have the cut shot.
Talking with one of the great middle blockers of all time, Tanya Taki-Dorn, on the text line. Nebraska heads to the Final Four in Louisville to take on the winner later tonight of Creighton versus Penn State. It's hard to sweep anybody in a given year. They swept Wisconsin 3 times with players of the year on that team. We know how good Sarah Franklin is. We know how good Booth and Schreck are. How impressive is it what they did this year versus Wisconsin?
I mean, I'm not really impressed because, you know, back in the 90s, that was regular for us, where we would sweep Wisconsin every year, every time we played them. I'm just kidding. It's amazing. It was one of the best teams that you could be against. But, you know, honestly, when we were playing against Dayton and watching Texas A&M, those teams are a lot smaller players and they're very fast and fiery. And everybody was cheering for Texas A&M to win, but quite honestly, our team matches up so much better with Wisconsin because Andy Jackson can touch as high as, you know, the Richardson and the Schreck, you know, and so to have those teams, to be able to play a team that matches up with us so well, I just think we had their number. We just play so much better against teams that hit so much higher.
Well put.
So it's not going to make any difference. You've got literally 2 unbelievably good teams that Nebraska could potentially face in Penn State or Creighton. They've seen them both this season. One was a 5-set thriller that Nebraska won. The other one was Nebraska's lone Big Ten loss. Who do you see coming out of the game tonight to be Nebraska's opponent in the Final Four? And then what were your thoughts on that matchup?
I mean, there's a lot of Nebraska connection going on in the next game. I mean, obviously Creighton has, you know, a lot of Nebraska players. They're in Nebraska. Obviously having a Nebraska and a Nebraska team in the Final Four is an awesome story. But then you also have, you know, Katie Schumacher-Colley, who has breast cancer, and we have 2 transfers from Nebraska to Penn State. So there's just a lot of connections with both of those teams. I mean, obviously, you know, I know you guys know this about me, that I always pick against what I want to have happen. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So, like,
Yes.
remember,
Yeah,
like,
I do.
2 years ago where I bet $100 that Creighton basketball was going to win, and then Nebraska ended up beating them?
Yep.
Well, I just want you to know that I picked all the opposites of Final Four. I had everything going opposite except for Pitt. So I had Wisconsin going to the Final Four. I had Stanford going to the Final Four. And so I just want you to know that I picked Penn State to go to the Final Four just so Creighton would win.
You mentioned that Nebraska sometimes matches up on big hitting teams rather than, the dink and dunk teams. And maybe that's what you were saying, but
Yes.
would you rather play Creighton over Penn State? Is that what you're saying?
I mean, I want to see Penn State. I mean, I want to see Creighton in the Final Four just for the story of Nebraska has 2 teams. The state of Nebraska has 2 teams in the Final Four. But, I mean, I would say we probably match up better with Penn State, and we got punched in the mouth by them. So now it's our turn to punch back. So I would say playing Penn State in a neutral site is going to be a good matchup for us. Creighton's a little bit scary in that their outside hitters are just really crafty. Their setter is really crafty. I mean, Creighton has never, ever, 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 ever in the history of the world ever beat Nebraska. So, I mean, why not do it in the Final Four? So that's just a storyline that I don't know that I love that, but I think either way, we're in the Final Four. Anything can happen. If we can have Taylor Landsfer have 13 kills, 4 digs, or whatever she ended up having, I think we have a good shot at it.
Yeah,
whoever we play.
she looked fantastic. Creighton, were you surprised that they beat Texas?
I mean, I picked Texas to go to the Final Four so they would lose. So, yeah, I would say they were just a really scary team. This game that just got over, I need a new shirt. Like, I'm sweating. I stood the whole game. I cheered the whole game. Like, I am ready for a nap. But I will say that the Texas Creighton game got my heart rate up so high because I wanted Creighton to win so bad. But I was just so nervous because Maddie Skinner she could score 10 points she can go on a heater front row or back row or at the serving line. I mean, she's just the scariest player out there.
Yeah. Kelly Hunter said that John Cook was crying in the locker room. You probably never saw that version of John Cook when he played for him.
I mean, I would say that it's good to see him emotional. I mean, now that there's social media, we've seen Coach Cook cry quite a bit. So I'm proud of those girls for making him so proud, and they deserve it.
Tanya, you're the best. Go ahead.
I was going to say, I got one more quick question for you. So there's all kinds of Nebraska connections in the Final Four anyway, because you got Danny Busboom, the head coach at Louisville. They're going to take on Pittsburgh. What do you think of that other side of the bracket, Pitt, Louisville?
I mean, I think they kind of planned it out so that it was, conference rivals against each other. So, I mean, it's set up for it to be Nebraska, Penn State, Louisville, Pitt. So, I mean, if anybody can do it, it's Louisville at home. So they might as well go for it.
3 of the 4 coaches. I mean, that'd be. I mean, obviously Kentucky fell, but you could have had 3 of the Final 4 coaches being Nebraska coaches.
I know, isn't that crazy?
That would have been crazy. We always appreciate the time. You're the best, Tanya.
Yeah, I'll be in Louisville, and so if people are looking to go to Louisville, I highly recommend looking at flights to Cincinnati, Ohio. It's only an hour and 20-minute drive, and way cheaper flights.
Let's go. We expect to talk to you.
Appreciate the tip there.
There you go.
Yes, no problem.
All right. Thank you so much.
Yep.
You're the best. Tanya
Right,
Taki Dorn, one of the great middle blockers in Nebraska volleyball history, played for both the great coaches, Terry Pettit and John Cook, during her career. Not bad.
Yeah. Yeah. I still was just stunned. I expected a 5-setter today. I just did. It's one of those where, the talk, I was worried of a sweep like that.
Even in the
Wisconsin
even
comes
after
back,
they'd
they're
won the
finally
first
healthy.
2.
Well, Wisconsin's finally healthy. They were not at full strength against Nebraska either time they faced them earlier this season. And just, you start going through in your mind, and I expected a 5-set thriller. And then seeing the tweets from inside Devaney, and whether it's Amy Just from the Journal-Star or some other people that I follow on Twitter that were in the building, Brent Wagner, obviously, with the Journal-Star as well. They said it's louder here than it may have been all season, and we haven't even had first serve yet. Like the pregame, the place was that electric and was that amped. And I remember those nights at the Icebox where you walked in and you knew it was a foregone conclusion. And that crossed my mind. I was like, this kind of has that foreshadowing of it.
Yeah.
It's just over. Like Wisconsin, just get back on the bus. You don't even need to show up. And lo and behold, that's what happened.
We've talked about this before. I thought it was almost a mistake moving from the Coliseum to the Devaney Center because the Coliseum was so loud and the crowd was so on top of you. It was 4,000. I go, I don't know if you're going to be able to sell out the Devaney Center. And they have. Tom Osborne challenged John Cook, as we know, years ago to say, move to the Devaney Center. Let's sell that thing out. And I think John Cook was a little hesitant. It's the best home court advantage, maybe in sports.
Yeah. They've won. What are they at now? 61 in a row or something
They
like that?
just don't lose. They don't lose at home.
Well, and that's the whole thing. You talk about, it's the one thing I don't think the Cameron Crazies, the 12th man down at A&M, there's various fan bases that tend to have like that stigma of this. They are literally an extra player on the court, on the field.
And they know volleyball.
Yeah, and that's
they know volleyball so well.
Nebraska fans, volleyball fans are that in the sport of volleyball, and they are so unbelievably knowledgeable of the game.
By the way, that game was on national television on ABC today.
Yeah, there were some national pundits that were talking about the fact that Nebraska-Wisconsin is on ABC, and they're like, you could not have a more fitting matchup. Yeah. Like, if you want to showcase what women's college volleyball is, this is how you do it.
And Nebraska
at Devaney with those two teams.
And Nebraska is the big reason that volleyball has been elevated to this stage. We know that they've already sold out 93,000.
I was going to say
strong.
There's 93,000 reasons why.
Right. And it seems like every time Nebraska goes on the road, a new attendance record is set. It's just amazing what they've done for the sport of volleyball. And Harper Murray, I don't think we talk about Lexi. We talked about Taylor Landfair, but Harper Murray played so well today. She does everything for this team. Let's get to the opening kick.
Now the opening kickoff on Husker Rewind.
Niles coming over at the goal line. A yard deep, he's coming out. Ball to the 10, 15, he's got a seam, 20, 30, down the near boundary, 40, Niles cuts back, 50, 40, 35, 30, 20, 15, 10, 5, touchdown, Niles Paul with a 101 yard.
Well, we were just talking about it, and we'll give you all the details right here, right now. Nebraska sweeps Wisconsin today. Unbelievable. Just a dominant performance. A little tougher than they wanted in set number 1, 26-24 they won, and then 25-17, 25-21 in the third. Nebraska headed to their 18th Final Four appearance in 43 seasons. They've been playing for 50 years. They didn't get to a Final Four until their 7th season, but in that 43 years since, they've been to 18 Final Fours.
Incredible.
Absolutely insane. Taylor Landfair today. On Friday, it was more of who am I missing here? Hang on. Got to get back to the box score against Dayton. Harper Murray. Oh my gosh. Harper Murray. Yeah, in the 4-set win, 3 sets to 1.
12 digs. 12 digs today, 4 blocks.
Yeah.
She is everywhere. She's literally everywhere on the court.
Yeah, and then the thing is, with today's sweep, Merritt Beeson hit negative.
Yeah, she didn't have a great match.
Yeah, she had only 3 kills on 21 swings. She hit negative. But when you've got Harper Murray with 22 kills, 22 kills was against Dayton.
10 kills.
10 kills today, though.
But 12 digs.
Yeah.
4 blocks.
Yeah, and Merritt Beeson didn't have her best hitting day today either.
No,
she hit negative against Dayton.
That's why it was so important that Taylor Landfair show up, and she did in a big way.
That she did. Elsewhere in some Husker news, Nebraska basketball sits at 7-2 following an 85-68 win over Indiana on Friday night at PBA. Bryce Williams led the way with a 30-point, 6-rebound, 5-assist performance. Jawan Gary had 14. Connor Esijan had 13. Andrew Morgan 10. Huskers held Indiana to 1 point over the final 6:51 of that game, outscoring the Hoosiers 17-1 in that stretch. Next up, Murray State in Hawaii next Sunday. I told you last Sunday that I have firm belief and all belief in what Fred Hoiberg is doing and that this team would bounce back.
You were right.
That is an Indiana team that was not reeling. That is an Indiana team that came in hot. They had won 4 in a row, and Nebraska literally just sat there and traded haymakers with them until that final media timeout, and then just went, see ya. This team can be scary. I get it. Michigan State, I thought it was a blip.
We'll see.
When they put the effort in practice during the week and they prepare properly, this is a scary basketball team. That's going to be fun to watch.
Yeah, Fred Hoiberg said they had a great week of practice, and we'll get to that a little bit later on. But Bryce Williams absolutely carried this team. 30 points, 10 of 15 from the field. He was 2 of 3 from 3. He had 6 rebounds. He played great defense when they really needed it at the end. But they had a bunch of guys. I mean, Juwan Gary, 14 points. Sometimes you don't even notice him until you realize you look at the box score and he shows up everywhere. And then Connor Essegian has figured it out. He only took 7 shots, but he had 13 points. I think Andrew Morgan is slipping into a nice role for Nebraska. He was 4 of 5 from the field. He had 10 points. Nebraska shoots 61% from the field.
57% from 3. Absolutely insane.
That was just, it feels like guys are figuring out their roles. And it seems like the odd man out right now is Gavin Griffiths. He's not playing. He hasn't played in the last 2 games, but that's what happened. You kind of play 10 games or so. You kind of figure it out. And Nebraska's played 9.
Yeah.
You kind of figure out who fits where. And I think they've got a nice rotation going.
Yeah, and having Burke Buchton back and reasonably healthy, the groin strain was not very bad. I still don't think he's 100%, but what he brings, nailed another 3 in this game. He brings an intangible it factor to the court at times that's pretty fun to watch and witness. Women's basketball team 10-1. They beat Chattanooga this afternoon at PBA 66-42. Next up for them is Georgia Tech in Atlanta next Saturday. And oh my, there has been a little bit of news around the Nebraska football program. Coaching staff's going to look a little different. John Butler officially named defensive coordinator earlier this week. Terry Braden will soon be named the defensive line coach. Phil Simpson is the team's new outside linebackers coach. Mm-hmm. Phil Snow is expected to join the staff in some capacity. Yet, he's expected to. Da'Keel Shorts is the new wide receivers coach. Dana Holgerson, new OC, and just announced this afternoon, Addison Williams will be the new defensive backs coach. Williams was the defensive coordinator for UCF that led the Big 12 in pass defense last year. In the portal, it's been a trickle so far of commits, only 2 that I know of. Kevin Galick, a 3-year starter for New Hampshire. He is a long snapper, and that is something that Nebraska desperately needed after the fables and foils of this year's long snappers. And then you've got Williams Waneri, who was a 5-star that Nebraska was in on out of high school. He ultimately went to Missouri, but the Mosey connection in Kansas City pays dividends again.
Jamar Mosey.
Jamar, I guarantee you that is
he brought
a big
his son,
reason.
Isaiah.
Yeah.
But this is a bigger get. Let me just play a clip real quick because there has been a lot this week, and Rule spoke about the bowl game, and he spoke about recruiting. He spoke about the portal and all the coaching changes and some of the rumors, like his wife is not pregnant at 50. Julie's not pregnant. But this is him talking about Coach McGuire, and he did not fire him.
There was a report that I had fired Garrett. I didn't fire Garrett. And then, honestly, the night before signing day, Garrett said, "Hey, my dad offered me a job. I haven't taken it yet." And, I called every recruit and said, "Hey, chance Garrett might leave." But I didn't know it till that night. So, but I love Garrett. He did a great job for us. He recruited Ja'Cory. He recruited Cortez. He recruited some great players for us. Now we got Da'Keel here. And Da'Keel, I think, he's going to be great. So this is a really good time, I think, for us. This is a time moving forward that we can make a jump. I expect us to make a jump. And the guys that are out there working. But there'll be a lot more perceived chaos in the coming weeks because that's what's going to happen. Some coaches have made the decision to try to keep their roster together through the bowl game. I feel like it's best to get it done now, and so we can move forward into the bowl game with who we think is going to be around. Some things will still happen, and then we can get the guys in that we want. So whereas I haven't been pro portal before because I didn't want to get rid of guys.
There you go. There's Matt Rule talking about the portal and McGuire leaving, moving on to coach with his dad Joey at Texas Tech. We'll talk a lot of Husker football coming up in the next few breaks. Bill Belichick going to North Carolina. What a big story there. Hour number 2, BC, Brian Christopherson from Husker 24/7. We'll talk a little Husker basketball and football with him. A lot to come on the show. He's Mike Melby. I'm Tom Stevens. It's Husker Rewind.
It's the season of joy and a time to reflect on all of our blessings.
Happy holidays from the Lead Center. We're so grateful for our amazing Lincoln community, and we wish you joy, inspiration, and memories together. See the lineup of holiday shows at leadcenter.org.
From everyone at Matt Talbot Kitchen and Outreach, thank you for your friendship, goodwill, and loyalty. May the happiness and good cheer of the holiday season be yours throughout the new year.
Hey folks, it's Jack from LNK today with Jack and Friends. Now, one of the things we love to do during the Husker football season is talk about those traditions and the successes of the program. They've got those things at Daryl's Jewelers too. They've been a family business in the capital city for over 40 years. And Daryl is an importer, a designer, and a master jeweler. He does it all. So when you want only the best hands and the best eyes and the best mind on your jewelry, whether it's something you need repaired or custom designed, Daryl's is the place. You'll find him at Meridian Park, 6900 O Street. And don't forget to sell him. Jack sent you.
It's that holiday time of year. Give the gift of hearing to you or a loved one. Rated in the best hearing aids of 2024 by USA Today. Audien Hearing has the highest quality hearing aids at the lowest prices, just $189.
I actually like them better than my old $5,000 hearing aids.
Join over 500,000 happy customers by going to audienhearing.com. That's AUDIEN hearing.com. Hurry, don't miss Audien Hearing's Christmas sale live, now through December 15th.
Did you know you can get your prescriptions for less at your local pharmacy? You can with GoodRx. It's the free app that can save you money on your medications. Just search for your prescription, choose the pharmacy and the price that works best for you, and then show your GoodRx coupon to your pharmacist at the drop-off counter. GoodRx works at over 70,000 pharmacies, including Walmart, Rite Aid, and Walgreens, and it works whether you have insurance or not. It's easy to save. Next time you drop off your prescription, check GoodRx. To start saving today, go to GoodRx.com. GoodRx is not insurance.
Hi, I'm Jenny Garth. I've loved and cared for rescue animals since I was a little girl growing up on a farm in Illinois. My pets have always been some of the most important members of my family. My friends at American Humane have been helping animals for over 140 years. Adopting an animal in need can help save a life and add a new member to your family. Since 1981, American Humane has celebrated Adopt a Dog Month each October in an effort to help the estimated 3 to 4 million animals waiting in shelters every year to get the loving, forever home that they deserve. I urge you to consider fostering or adopting a shelter pet and to support the noble mission of American Humane. Together, we can make a significant difference in the lives of these loving creatures. For more information, please check out AmericanHumane.org.
It's the most complete weekly recap of Husker sports.
Nebraska's going to get a swing outside. Kelsey fade off the block and off. They did it. Nebraska national champions. Nebraska's a national champion. Go celebrate.
Back to Husker Rewind with Mike Melby and Tom Stevens on 1499.3 KLIN.
We had a phenomenal week of practice, and I talked obviously after the last one how disappointed I was in our prep heading into that Michigan State game, and I give our guys a lot of credit. They responded like men. They went out there, they played together. We got off to a great start. We wanted to make sure that we didn't dig ourselves the same hole that we did against Michigan State, and for us to go out and build that 10-point lead, the crowd was incredible. For the weather the way it is, and for the volleyball game tonight, for us to go out and get off to that start was very important. So just really proud of the guys for the week of prep that we had. Now we can't get comfortable. We have to have the same type of preparation heading into the trip to Hawaii, 3 games in 4 days. When we go over there, obviously we've had a lot of time between games and playing a very good team in Murray State that can really shoot the basketball in the first game, I believe, next Sunday. So we're going to take tomorrow off, come in, get a good skill, work out, watch film on Sunday, and then get back to work with full contact practices.
That is Nebraska men's basketball coach Fred Hoiberg following an 85-68 dismantling of Indiana over the last 6 minutes. Otherwise, It was a heavyweight fight. Hell of a ball game. Crowd was insane,
It was
especially
close
with
up
the
to,
weather.
like 3 minutes left. It was a close game.
Well, yeah, and it was Nebraska had
went
a
on that 24 to 4 run late.
Yeah, it was a 17-1 run to end the game. Nebraska with 6:51 left. Miles Rice, I think it's Miles Rice.
He was unstoppable for a while.
He hit a 3, and that made it 68-67. They scored 1 point after that, and Nebraska put 17 more up on the board. It was as dominating of a stretch as I've seen against a really high-quality team since, I don't know, the Creighton game, the entire game, because I just had to rub that in the Blue Jay fans' face. No, but it was dominant. Bryce Williams was exactly what Bryce Williams needs to be for this team. He doesn't need to go for 30, but he needs to be efficient with what he does. Well, you know what? You put up 15 shots. If James Palmer would have put up 15 shots, you know how efficient James was. James would have put up 15 shots, been 7 of 13 from the line, and he would have had 21 points. Yeah. Whereas Bryce puts up 15 shots, goes 8 of 11 from the line, 10 of 15 from the field, 30 points.
And they put him on Miles Rice late. And they shut him down. I think he went 0 for 3 or 4 his last 4 attempts. I can't remember what it was, but he was red hot. They put Bryce on him. Bryce is so valuable because he could play the 1, 2, 3, or 4. He's great as a ball handler. If you foul him, he's going to make free throws. He's a 90% free throw shooter. He didn't shoot free throws very well for him. He was 8 of 11.
8 of 11.
But he gets 30. Had a chance to have a career high. But I was impressed by the interior defense. It's been good all year for the most part. Wasn't against Michigan State, but Ballo is a really good player. Umar Ballo, the transfer from Arizona, big-time player. I think he was the top recruit in the transfer portal this past season, 7-footer. Nebraska shut him down for the most part. He did have 11 rebounds, and that was the one big concern, and it has been for a while. The offensive rebounds from Indiana, they had 15 offensive rebounds, but Nebraska tied them in total rebounds, 35-35.
Yeah, and to show you how much of an aberration it was for Bryce Williams to miss 3 free throws, he was 49 of 53 from the stripe before the game.
That's crazy.
That's
like, going to be so valuable in this league.
That's Jack Moore numbers.
And he just knows how to draw fouls. It makes me think that he has a chance. I don't think he's going to be one of those guys that goes immediately to the NBA, but I think he has a chance to play in the NBA because he's not overly athletic, but he can defend. You saw some of the shots at the hoop. He has the ability to get fouled, and then if you foul him, he's going to make the free throws. He's a very good three-point shooter. He can handle the ball at a high level. If you need him to play point, he will. I think he has a chance to be first team all. Maybe it's crazy for me to say that. First team all Big Ten. I mean, he's one of those guys that, he keeps playing like this. And Nebraska gets to the tournament. He'll be the reason or one of the big reasons that they get to the tournament.
Yeah, I definitely think he'll be an all-conference selection regardless, but I think he's got the potential to be first team all Big Ten, which is saying something because this is an 18-team league that is pretty salty, especially with the top tier, the top 6 or 7 teams. I think this could be a season that Nebraska, that the Big Ten only gets 6, maybe 7 at the most teams in the dance. Mm-hmm. And that's even with the addition of the 4 Pac-12 schools. And I still to this day firmly feel Nebraska is going to be somewhere in that 3, 4, 5, 6 range at the end of the regular season, and they're going to be dancing.
I agree. They won't play again until next Sunday, the 22nd.
The
Murray
Racers.
State. They play Murray State, good shooting team, but I think it's good. They get a little break here, and then they go to Hawaii. I want to switch here to some rule bites as they prepare to play Boston College in the Pinstripe Bowl on the 28th. Pretty good spot. I mean, you don't want to necessarily go to New York this time of year, but it's a good spot in that they're playing on ABC, first time in a long time. 12 o'clock game, I believe. So that'll be good. And not Nebraska fans will attend that game. But this was Matt Rule talking about a bunch of different things. We mentioned his wife, Julie, not pregnant.
There hasn't been a day that Julie and I have not been out somewhere and someone's walked up to her and congratulated her on being pregnant. which she's not pregnant. It's like someone put something on social media, and literally, I mean, there hasn't been a day. She laughs about it. I have to just walk back, and we appreciate people for saying it. But in Julie's mind, she's like, I'm 50, and I would never announce that I'm pregnant after 4 weeks. So I would just tell everyone out there, like, be careful what you read. Like, be careful. I have people walk up to, I heard this, I heard that. There's a reason why, if you look on my phone, there is no Instagram or Twitter. And I know that's a large part of what you guys do, but the external message maybe sometimes is not what we're saying here.
He took it in good spirits, but I think it is frustrating sometimes. Bo Pelini hated to be talked to by the media outside the confines of the media room. I don't think he was one of those guys that necessarily enjoyed being approached on the street. I don't think it bothers Rule, but I think that bothered him a little bit.
Yeah, Bo Pelini didn't like being talked to by anyone that was not an immediate family member or a member of the program or coaching staff. Just for Nebraska fans that are heading to New York to go to the Pinstripe Bowl, bring a bring a raincoat. It's supposed to be 50 with showers.
Oh, 50.
Yeah.
You'll take that.
Yeah. 50 with showers.
Wow. That's kind of a break.
Yeah.
I've seen games where it's been like 15 degrees.
Yeah. No, they're talking right at about a 50-50 shot of rain. So
it wasn't called the Pinstripe Bowl back in the day, but Devaney took his team there in 1962. What was it, the name of that?
Well,
bowl?
the Gotham Bowl.
The Gotham Bowl.
Yeah.
And there's the legendary story where Nebraska had to wait on the tarmac in Lincoln for the check to clear. It was like $5,000, and there was very few people at the game, and Nebraska won it. So that's the last time they played in New York City. Other bites here from Matt Rule. He's talking about the money in college football.
This is completely different than it even was a year ago right now, with the amount of money floating around in college football. And so he's finished his development. What scares me, Sean, is, to think that you're going to develop in college and play somewhere as a freshman, then somewhere as a sophomore, then somewhere else as a junior. You might make a little money, but I don't know if you're really ever going to become the player you could be. I think we'll have to wait 30 years and see who's happier, the guys who went somewhere for 4 years or the guys who moved around. Like, they'll all have to figure that out. But so Nate's open. I'd be open to Nate coming back. But I think he's just still trying to figure out, am I going to the NFL? Am I going to see what's out there for me potentially in college? And there's a lot of financial opportunities out there right now.
There's Matt Rule talking about Nate Borkircher, who apparently is being wooed by some SEC teams, maybe Alabama, one of them. For a guy that's doesn't have a lot of career catches, but it did have a nice little run with Dana Holgerson here at the end, and apparently is being offered some money. There was a rumor that he had jumped into the portal, then back out that he's staying at Nebraska. He is a Nebraska kid. So we'll see where that goes. We know that Emmett Johnson did it and came back out to Nebraska. Jamari Butler left and stayed in the portal. Now he's at LSU. There's a few other guys that are moving on. We'll see what happens with
Principal's going to Ole Miss.
James Williams. We'll see where he is at Florida State. I mean, we assume that it's more than likely. Mekhi Bear. They're losing 23% of their defensive snaps.
Yeah. Danny Kalin is signed with Virginia. Yeah. That was announced earlier today. So good luck to him. I was a little surprised at that he decided to leave, but
they've got TJ Lateef coming in,
who I think Kalen's a better quarterback.
Well, I don't know. I know Lateef had a huge senior year, and had an offer from Colorado, among others. It was considered a pretty big victory, a 4-star recruit, as was Kalen. I think Lateef is more mobile than is Kalen. Kalen might be more accurate. I think regardless, Nebraska is going to have to go and get another quarterback. They're already saying that Heinrich Harburg will be a tight end. In fact, this is Matt Rule talking about Harburg being a tight end next year.
He'll still be available as a quarterback in the bowl game, but Jalen's been working as a number 2 quarterback, and Heinrich's been pretty much full steam ahead, getting ready for next year and being sort of like that FY tight end type guy. What do you like about that? He's probably one of the best athletes I've ever had a chance to coach. I mean, he's big, he's explosive, he's athletic, he can catch the ball, he's really smart. Heinrich can go out there, he can play tailback on one play and play X receiver on the next. In terms of knowing what to do, I'm not saying all those are specific to his skill set. So, but like I said, with a play designer like Dana, I think guys who can run and catch and block, they can do it. And so I think he's gonna have a real chance there.
There you go. Heinrich Harburg will play quarterback in the bowl game, but then move to tight end, probably play situational quarterback next year. Maybe use him in the Wildcat situation. But you do have, I guess, an emergency quarterback along with Latif. And then Raiola, who mentioned earlier this week, there's so much news this week, that he is all in and staying at Nebraska. Apparently, there were rumors online, and who knows if they're true, that maybe an SEC team offered him some money, and Nebraska might have counter-offered that for him to stay at Nebraska.
It's all rumor and speculation. Somebody's uncle knows the secretary of the associate athletic director at Ole Miss or at Florida or at Bama, and whatever. So Jalen Gramstad, though, interesting that like
he has another year available, right?
Yeah, and he's essentially going to be our backup quarterback
in the bowl game.
And I mean, I looked at next year, and you got two quarterbacks, and I think he's a senior. He's done. I don't think he's got another year of eligibility.
It'll be interesting to see with a 105-man roster what they do. Do they cut it down immediately? Do they allow you to bring in? Nebraska's traditionally had a couple of walk-on.
Cut it immediately. Period.
They haven't definitely. I don't know that they're going to be able to do that immediately.
They don't have a choice. The NCAA mandates by August 1st of this year, your roster is 105 people. There's no exceptions.
But do they allow a practice squad? What happens if you have 20 injuries from your 105-man roster?
Then you better.
Are you allowed to replace them with a practice squad via a la the NFL?
This year, no. This is not speculation. This is done. It's 105 players. You can't keep 120 just because you feel like it, because you may lose 15 of them. It's the rule is 105 people, period.
But you're talking about dangerous situations if teams, because there's a lot of times the teams won't have 105. They might start with 85. And what happens because now there's revenue sharing and you have to pay these people. See, there's a lot of teams that won't want to carry 105 because they can't pay them. And then if you get a load of injuries, I'm just saying that the NCAA's been known to change on a drop of that. They changed the rule this year in the middle of the season.
Yeah.
I'm just saying there's a chance that they look at this because they're always meeting with these committees, these football committees. And I know Troy Dannon is on them. I just don't know that this is over. Was it over when the Germans bombed Pearl Harbor?
John Belushi didn't think so.
That's right. We've got a lot to talk about. We've got our picks of density coming up a little bit later on. We'll talk much more volleyball. John Baylor will be with us, the voice of Nebraska volleyball, who called the game today. Nebraska, of course, on its way to Louisville and the Final Four after sweeping Wisconsin today and in the season. Impressive, Nebraska volleyball. They'll play the winner of Creighton versus Penn State, which is tonight. More on the way.
Are you ready for a new opportunity? Check out Sandhills Global. Join a dynamic team where your skills are valued and your career can soar. We offer full-time positions with a 4.5-day work week, competitive pay, excellent benefits, and a positive work environment. From IT and marketing to sales and finance, we're looking for talented individuals just like you. Apply today at sandhills.jobs and take the first step towards an exciting future. That's sandhills.jobs. Don't wait, apply now.
Icon Plumbing will be able to approach your plumbing problems with an expert diagnosis followed with honest repair options. Icon Plumbing. Leaks, remodels, clogs, preventative maintenance, and more. Icon Plumbing's experts have the experience to fix basically anything. Their professionals have been around the block and inside every sort of home plumbing scenario over the years. Icon Plumbing. From the water main to the sewer line with everything in between, Icon Plumbing's experts can handle it all. IconPlumbingNE.com.
These statements have not been reviewed by the Food and Drug Administration. This product is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease.
Hello, everyone. For all of you who suffer from calcium oxalate stones, here is some free advice. Tip 1, drink plenty of water. It takes a lot of water to dilute and pass the substances that lead to stones. Tip 2, modify your diet. You'll need to limit sodium, cut your meat.
Tired of difficult lifestyle changes that often don't work? If you suffer from calcium oxalate stones, now there's help. Kidney Cop, Calcium Oxalate Protector. Add Kidney Cop to your routine as a way to potentially reduce or even stop the formation of calcium oxalate stones. Kidney Cop is a dietary supplement developed by doctors and pharmacists. It's been proven in laboratory tests to reduce the rate of calcium oxalate crystal growth by 99%. That's right, 99%. Just take Kidney Cop. Satisfaction guaranteed or your money back. You can purchase affordable Kidney Cop today by visiting Amazon.com, Walmart.com, or KidneyCop.com. Yes, you can start enjoying life again. Purchase Kidney Cop at Amazon.com, Walmart.com, or KidneyCop.com today.
Today, my new dad and I shot off a rocket in the park.
Today, my new son and I failed to shoot off a rocket.
He knew exactly what to do.
I had no clue what I was doing.
We set up the rocket.
We set up the rocket.
Hit ignition.
Hit ignition.
And then...
And then nothing. Sometimes I laugh when I'm frustrated.
Then out of nowhere, the rocket launched into the air.
The rocket did get into the air.
I've never seen anything fly so high.
And then crashed into a kite.
Look out! Look out!
And then the pond.
I'll never forget that day.
I'll never forget that day, even if I tried.
You don't have to be perfect to be a perfect parent. Thousands of kids in foster care will take you just as you are. For more information on how you can adopt, visit adoptuskids.org. A public service announcement from the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, Adopt U.S. Kids, and the Ad Council.
Husker Rewind with Tom Stevens and Mike Melby. Two guys old enough to actually remember Nebraska's 5 national titles.
Man, woman, and child did that. Put them in the aisle.
On 1499.3 KLIN.
So I wanted to get the right person. I talked to a lot of great candidates. There was a ton of interest from sitting defensive coordinators. But I thought I really like what we've done the last 2 years. You know, I thought we maybe took a step back defensively a little bit this year in some areas. But I like what we've done. I like the overall general philosophy. And so, but to win moving forward, and this is something that, you know, a mentor of mine, Phil Snow, said to me. He said, you know, Matt, to win moving forward, you know, the things we're doing, the havoc that we're creating is great on, you know, third down, to be first and second down. To be great moving forward on third down, you know, some of the stuff that we've done in the NFL, you know, third down packages, second and long packages versus the teams who can really throw it. Like, you know, we can go out, we played good against Iowa, but, you know, Iowa's a running team. You know, to be able to stop the offenses that we're going to need to stop that can drop back and spin the ball, we're going to need some advanced, I think, defense on third down, 2-minute red zone. And as I went through that, you know, John had the top secondary in the NFL for 5 years. There was a lot of outpouring from our current players, guys I really respect. And, you know, I'm not going to make that decision because of that, but I think they felt like some of the current guys in the secondary felt like after 3 or 4 years in college, John had brought a professionalism and a next level mentality to them that they thought was going to prepare them for the next level.
There you go. Matt Rule talking about the hiring of John Butler. Of course, Tony White has moved on. He is now the defensive coordinator at Florida State. He takes Terrence Knighton with him as the defensive line coach. Nebraska's hired a brand new defensive line coach, Terry Bratton, who was with the Chiefs as an assistant coach. They hired Dakeil Shorts as the wide receiver coach. It's so hard. We mentioned Garrett McGuire moving on. He's now with his dad at Texas Tech. But getting back to the defensive coordinator, because it's a big deal. Nebraska was not a bad defensive team over the last couple of years, top 25, top 20 in a lot of categories. But Rule's saying that he wasn't completely pleased with Nebraska's play in the red zone on third down. And so he makes the move to John Butler, who has been successful in the NFL as a secondary coach, coached 1 year at Penn State as a defensive coordinator. Says he interviewed 5 or 6 guys, but stuck with Butler. A lot of the players, he said, came to him and said, we like this guy and we're going to hire him.
I guess from my personal standpoint, I'm underwhelmed. I thought there was other people out there that I think would have been a better fit, but the fit would have not more than likely included running some type of the 3-3-5, which is what Matt Rule wants to do.
Yeah.
And I think that's ultimately why he decided to go with John Butler, is because of the fact that he's willing to jump in and kind of run a similar defense. We know it's going to have 4 and 5 down linemen at time. We saw that in the last 2 years with Tony White. But hey, bottom line, you know what? If the players like the guy and they're going to play for him and what he does makes sense to them and they've got buy-in, you're already a couple of legs up than if you brought somebody in from the outside. So ultimately, maybe it winds up being the best hire possible, just simply because he was here for a year.
Yeah, we'll see. I guess you never know until you know. Nebraska, they were good under Tony White, but they weren't great. There were games, Indiana, obviously, maybe you just throw away the Indiana game because it was so bad. But UCLA, USC, there were times they couldn't get off the field on third down. And that's what Rule mentioned in the bite. Yeah, it's great when you shut down a team like Iowa that's kind of predictable. You know they're going to run 3 times out of 4. But when you get against some of the better teams, a la the USCs, the Ohio States, the Michigans going forward, you're going to need a diverse offense and to mix up your coverages. And maybe that's where John Butler comes in. He's going to need some help. We mentioned that there's a brand new coach hired today in the secondary coach. They finally hired him. Addison Williams from UCF, by the way.
Yeah.
Where Scott Frost has just taken over. He was the defensive coordinator. UCF did not have a good year, and they fired their staff. Gus Malzahn, the head coach, has moved on. He obviously is Addison Williams looking for a new gig, and he finds it at Nebraska. The interesting thing about this staff is you got a lot of coaches with experience. That's one of the things we criticize Scott Frost for, is that you had a lot of young guys and not enough guys that
have a little gray in the beard.
And this is what Rule mentioned about the reason for hiring a Phil Snow. Again, it's not official yet, Phil Snow, but we all assume that Phil Snow, who's 68 years old, is coming up on staff. He's going to be on staff.
This job as a head coach is a juggernaut. There's way more to do here than I had to do in the NFL. And so having someone over there on defense, seeing the big picture, whether it's portal evaluations or evaluating your own guys, or making sure at the end of the day we're still doing the old school fundamentals of running to the ball and tackling. I thought our tackling has fallen off this year. I don't think we played as hard this year running to the balls maybe we had the year before in some areas. And so I want someone, kind of a big picture person, that can help and assist in those areas.
And that would be Phil Snow. It's not official, but you would assume he would hire his mentor at some point.
Well, yeah, I mean, he did it his last 3 stops.
Yeah. It is the one thing I really have a problem with this time of year right now is the NCAA allowing guys to jump into the portal before the bowl games are played.
Yeah, it just seems absolutely stupid, but it's the NCAA, so it's fitting that they would allow it.
Just why is it a big problem? Just wait till January. I mean, why? I mean, the kids probably have their mind made up regardless. And Rule said that he wanted to do it now anyway. I mean, he's happy that it happened now, so you know who's going to be with you going forward into the bowl season and to next year. But Nebraska has been heavily damaged by the portal. Again, 23% of their snaps on the defensive side of the ball, not so much the offensive side. You have guys like Malachi Coleman, Emmett Johnson, who jumped in and then jumped back out. There's a few, and we'll see what happens with Nate Borkircher if he decides to go elsewhere. That is hurtful because he probably won't play in the bowl game, Nate Bork, because he hasn't been practicing, I'm guessing, if he's in the portal.
Don't know.
I don't know. Maybe you can make the decision the day before the bowl game that I'm coming out of the portal and I know the playbook, I'm going to play. But it's been really hurtful. They lose Stephen Thompson, who's going to Florida State. Malachi Coleman has announced he's going to Minnesota. They did get Keanu Davis back on the defensive line. Princewell Uman-Mielen, where'd you say he was going?
Ole Miss.
Ole Miss.
So that's where his brother played.
So there you go.
His final season.
The one transfer that Nebraska has gotten, it could make a huge difference because Nebraska's been looking for Randy Gregory since Randy Gregory left town.
Yeah.
And if Williams Wanari,
yep,
I think that's how you pronounce it. The N is silent. Winari, the transfer from Minnesota, if he works out, you got something. You got a pass rush, which Nebraska hasn't legitimately had. I mean, Jamari Butler was good at times, but they haven't had a Randy Gregory in a long, long time. And if this guy's a 5-star, a transfer from Missouri, and why would you pay him all the money? Allegedly, they paid him a lot of money to go Missouri to redshirt. I think it has to happen with the NCAA. Just go 5 years for everybody. So, guys are playing right away. You don't have the 4-game thing where they can play in those games and preserve their redshirt. If you're going to a 105-man roster with all the injuries that are going to come to certain teams, just go with 5 years so everybody can play.
Yeah, it's being talked about off the Hunt Irrigation Talk and text line. Ken chimes in with I'll paraphrase. I don't really want to, get too in depth, but time to start a new governing body, and the NCAA needs to go away.
Well, I think a college football czar is coming. I just don't see how it isn't.
I would agree. And who do you think wants to be that college football czar more than anybody? Although I don't think he will get it.
Well, tell me.
Trev Alberts.
Oh yeah, I think he's wanted that. I mean, you get millions, and you don't have to work as hard as you do as an athletic director. I think he wanted more money, and I think he didn't want to work. I think actually Trev is a pretty good athletic director, and we'll see if he ever gets on one of those committees or if he's the college football czar. But they need one, and they also need NFL-style contracts. You can't have guys just bopping from one team to another team to another team every year. We do know revenue sharing is coming in college football. Every player on the Nebraska squad is going to get $140,000, and that's without NIL. Dylan Raiola is going to make much more than that.
Yeah, he already is. And that's the thing too, that some of the little nuances of guys jumping into the portal, or the quarterback at Nevada this year that basically said, that's it, I quit because you're not paying me what you said you were going to.
Right. And a lot of schools have done that, where players were promised money, they get there and there's nothing.
Yeah.
There's nothing. So
yeah, and to me, if you've got a player that all of a sudden is a little upset, they got a coach from another squad in their ear, and they get 4 games in or halfway through the season and decide that's it. And guess what? The money you're making now stops.
Yeah.
That $140,000, it's not all at once in a big duffel bag full of cash. It's probably over time and payments, and you're going to stop getting paid.
Yeah. You got to go to an NFL-style salary cap, contracts. You got to know if they make an offer, you got to know what you can counter with. Yep. I mean, it's got to be all out in the open. That's the way it's got to be. Hey, John Baylor, he's the voice of Nebraska volleyball. We'll talk to him after Nebraska punches their ticket for the Final Four in Louisville. We'll talk to him coming up next.
Toughness, strength, passion, results. When your team takes the field, this is what you expect. And if you've been injured, this is what you get when you work with Friedman Law.
We battle it out in the courtroom with the same toughness, strength, and passion for injury victims. Friedman Law suits up against the insurance company and fights hard for the compensation you deserve. Friedman Law, since 1962, helping injured people. It's what we do. It's all we do.
Outside is where winter adventure unfolds. On frozen lakes, icy landscapes, and snow-covered slopes, feeling the cold air rush by as you race downhill. The freedom of gliding with ease and the warmth of being together. From epic sled rides to the fun of ice fishing, it's all right here beneath Nebraska skies. Start your winter adventure at yournebraskaparks.com. Sponsored by Nebraska Game and Parks, aired with the Nebraska Broadcasters Associations and this station.
It's that holiday time of year. Give the gift of hearing to you or a loved one. Rated in the best hearing aids of 2024 by USA Today. Audien Hearing has the highest quality hearing aids at the lowest prices, just $189.
I actually like them better than my old $5,000 hearing aids.
Join over 500,000 happy customers by going to audienhearing.com. That's AUDIEN hearing.com. Hurry, don't miss Audien Hearing's Christmas sale live, now through December 15th.
When it comes to a gun suicide attempt, all it takes is a moment.
My son, Ricky, took his life by the use of a firearm. It broke me, and I contemplated suicide. My grandson, I was going to have to be here for him. I still own my firearm. I keep it in a safe because I want to keep my grandson and myself safe.
Store your guns, locked, unloaded, and away from ammo. Hear more safe stories at endfamilyfire.org. Brought to you by Brady and the Ad Council.
From the Momo Pizzeria and Ristorante Studios, we are the voice of Lincoln. KLIN Lincoln. KDDK HD3 Lincoln. K257GN Lincoln is 1499.3 KLIN. Welcome to the best recap of Husker sports. Husker Rewind with your hosts Tom Stevens and Mike Melby.
Welcome to the circus.
Steps, throws down the field. The pass is intercepted. Picked off by Sierra Wright to the 30, 25, 20. Sierra down the near sideline. 20, 10, 5. Touchdown, Nebraska. Sierra Wright with a pick six for Nebraska.
Here comes the serve. Straight ahead, past Schumacher. Set in the middle. Schmeck out of bounds. We're done. Huskers win. Call it, grandkids. Nebraska sweeps Wisconsin on the road, no less.
And for the first time in 41 years, Nebraska knocks off the top-ranked team in the country, and they are storming the floor. They are storming the floor. They are storming the floor.
Love it.
Sign your name, Fred Hoiberg. There's your signature win.
Breaking ball, that's looped in left field. Gabe Swanson is there. He squeezes it, and your Huskers are Big Ten champions. After losing game one Tuesday night, they come back and win 5 straight and capture the Big Ten tournament for the first time since joining the league. And the dog pile is ongoing in front of the plate.
Now, here's Tom Stevens and Mike Melby on 1499.3 KLIN.
Franklin, the slide, Robinson, block back! Kobe Grandkids! They did it! Nebraska sweeps Wisconsin for the 3rd time this season. And hello, Louisville! The Big Red Panther it belongs to Final Four, number 18 in school history. 26-24, 25-17, 25-21. And that's a happy bunch of hugging Huskers.
That has to never get old, John Baylor. Ever. Right? That's got to be just music to your ears every single time. Final Four.
It's amazing. This is the 7th Final Four in 10 years, and it never gets old.
Wow. Did you think? I mean, you never think Nebraska is going to sweep, Purdue, let alone Wisconsin 3 times in 1 year. And they did it, and they made it look easy at times. Maybe not today at times, but this is we've talked about it all season long. Can you officially tell me this is a better team than last year?
I think so, because of the defense. I've never seen them play this well this season, and I can't recall seeing a Husker team play this well defensively ever. And, they were so good at defense that Merritt Beeson, one of their big attackers, hit 0, and the Huskers still swept Wisconsin. You've got the greatest libero maybe in the history of the sport at this level, and we've had some great ones before, Lexi Rodriguez. You've got a great 2-time setter of the year. You have Harper Murray, who's wearing a cape, and you've got Andy Jackson, arguably the greatest athlete in the history of the program, all on the floor at the same time. And then Rebecca Alec is the best in the business in blocking. She had 6 more today. Team out-blocked Wisconsin for the 2nd time in 3 tries this year. And Wisconsin's 2nd highest in the country in blocks per set. So they just played so well collectively today. And after watching Pittsburgh dismantle Kentucky yesterday, I thought, wow, they're great. And after watching Nebraska today, they can compete with Pittsburgh. I think those are your 2 favorites right now.
They have to be. Emily Eman, obviously very well known in the volleyball world, sent out a tweet earlier today that said, hands down, Lexi Rodriguez is the best college volleyball player in the country, period. Do you agree?
I think she's had the biggest impact this year. I mean, can you compare a defensive lineman with a running back and say which one's better. I mean,
If it's Ndamukong Suh, yeah.
Yes, I think it's important that that Lexi be seriously considered, and I think she's got a really good chance. In part because the vote hopefully is not just for this year when she's been her best ever, but it's for her body of work. She's a senior. Olivia Babcock's your other option. She's just a sophomore, and it would send a message to the sport that defense matters. That we get fixated on offensive numbers, but when you've got somebody who just keeps digging and frustrating the opposing team, she's having at least as big an impact as someone who gets 15 kills in the match.
Well, I think Charles Woodson is the only defensive player to ever win the Heisman. Up until Travis
Hunter last night.
Travis Hunter is just Mr. Everything. But Lexi Rodriguez, I don't think a libero's ever won National Player of the Year, right?
Correct. I don't think they've ever been a finalist.
I mean, I think because it was on TV, because it was the spotlight game of the day on ABC, and because of some of the plays she had today, I think she put herself at the top of the conversation, right?
Absolutely. The Huskers had to win today to get to the Final Four for her to have a chance. But now this is an open conversation. I think Husker Nation should join in this conversation because I think if the voters hear from the fans that this young woman is deserving and that they need to, the voters need to think outside the box and consider a defensive player, a libero who only plays defense, the Husker fans can have something to say about it and have some influence. Otherwise, it's Olivia Babcock. I mean, she's just had an unbelievable year.
Talking with the voice of Nebraska volleyball, John Baylor. Of course, Nebraska is going to take on the winner of Creighton versus Penn State later tonight. We had Tanya Taki-Dorn on earlier. She said that maybe
Tanya.
Yeah, she's the best. She's awesome. She's on all the time with us. That maybe Creighton's the tougher matchup, that Nebraska matches up with the Wisconsins and the Penn States better than they do Creighton. What do you think?
I agree. I think Creighton just doesn't have any weaknesses. They're so steady. They play at such high caliber volleyball, and you know their lows are very high, whereas Penn State's up and down, and they played out of their minds against Nebraska. I mean, 16 kills for Caroline Juravicius. That's by far her personal high for the season. So it's difficult to imagine they're going to be able to replicate that. But I mean, Creighton is a nightmare matchup. Just ask Texas.
Exactly. Speaking of, who do you expect to come through tonight's game and be Nebraska's opponent in Louisville on Thursday?
I think it's going to be Creighton. I think Creighton's a better team. It's just they've got two outside hitters that are phenomenal. So they always have a back row attacker. They have two really good middles. At this point, though, all the middles are strong. They're big and tall. The question is, to what extent can you get them involved, to get them engaged? And with a setter like Kendra Waite, you get those middles involved. And they've got a really solid right side. But two elite left side terminal hitters are critical to get deep into December. And Creighton is just formulaically built for a deep December run. Then you throw on top of it this chemistry, this connection that Creighton players have always had with their head coach, Kirsten Bernthal Booth. And there's just a togetherness that you rarely see. I mean, this Nebraska team is in that conversation as well. But you rarely see it, and they have it nearly every year there.
Taylor Landfair hasn't had a great year, but she had a great game today. She was really a difference maker. 13 kills, hit 267. How happy are you for her?
Really happy, but this was not coming. How would you have seen this coming? She had one match in the last 6, Florida A&M, when she hit more than 208. And here, just in the nick of time, she ties her personal best with Nebraska with 13 kills, and it's a big number, 267. You absolutely have to have that. You have to have two terminal outside hitters. And suddenly, Taylor Landfair today became one, and then you've got the two middles, and there you go. There's your quartet of attackers, which makes defending Nebraska so much more difficult. Again, Merritt Beeson hit 0, and we swept Wisconsin, in part because of Taylor Landfair.
Yeah. And Harper Murray is Wonder Woman, JB. I completely agree.
Yeah.
Give her the cape. You were talking about it on the post game.
Give her the invisible airplane.
Yeah.
Any chance that John Cook wins the national championship and says, you know what? I'm out. I'm done. That's it.
He's 69 years old. He's earned the right to make that decision himself. I mean, there'll be plenty of conjecture, but 69 years old, and he's done it all. And he's got one more Final Four for him. This is his 15th Final Four. And let me make sure. Hold on. No, that's not correct. Let me start again. This is 12th Final Four in 25 seasons. Nearly half of his years at Nebraska, he's been to a Final Four, and this will be the 7th in 10 years. So who among us is doing their best at age 69?
Well, you're not 69, but you're doing pretty good. You're doing really good.
Thank you.
You are the man. We love having you on the air. We appreciate the time. You're the best, JB.
Anytime, guys. Take care.
Yep, appreciate
Thanks,
it.
JB.
John Baylor, of course, the voice of Nebraska volleyball.
Yeah, and it was interesting. It's as good as he is at play-by-play. His analysis and breakdown and the way he has the post-game interviews and conversations with Lauren Cook West, with Coach Cook today, it was Kelly Hunter.
Kelly Hunter
was on, and those conversations, it reminds me a little bit of you're sitting at a bar and you recognize, for the sake of argument, Matt Rule, or in this case, you recognize JB, and it's almost like you're getting to sit in and hear a conversation that he's having with a buddy that other people won't get to hear.
Right.
And it's just two people sitting there having a conversation that's a lot more knowledgeable than what you know. And that's what I always appreciate is the post game with what he does with it and the way he handles those interviews, because you learn and glean so many things that I guarantee you, even if you were at the match listening, you didn't quite catch it in the moment.
And a lot of people don't know he kind of fought for that job, and he won the job, and he didn't know a ton about volleyball, but he learned it at a very high level, got very close to the Hall of Famer Terry Pettit, got very close to John Cook, and he has become the best in the business. I mean, he realizes that, yeah, I'm going to be serious when I have to be serious, but he has so much fun. And there are not a lot of broadcasters that have as much fun as JB does on the air.
Which means it's fun to listen to.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's the ultimate goal. You want to make a show or a broadcast fun to listen to, and hopefully this one is as well. The NFL scores from today: Colts lose to the Broncos. Broncos win 23-13. It was the Cardinals over the Patriots. The Lions go down to the Bills, and so now they're tied with my Vikings in the Central. I know you're concerned about that.
We're still watching it live right now. It ain't over yet.
How much time? Oh, I guess there's 12 minutes left. So they could come back, but they're not going to come back. I root for everybody. Actually, I do kind of root for the Lions in the Central, but I usually hate everyone. You feel sorry for the Lions most years because they're terrible, but Dan Campbell has done something special with that team. Eagles, right now with 4 minutes left, lead the Steelers 27-13. Ravens over the Giants today, a final 35-14. Jets beat the Jaguars 32-25. Your Cowboys win.
Yeah, I know. I
with
don't
Rush.
need to stop that.
Yeah, because you don't want to see them win because you hate everybody associated with
McCarthy
the Cowboys.
needs to go. Prescott needs to go.
But the Cowboys win today 30-14. Commanders over the Saints 20-19. The Bengals beat the Titans 37-27. Chiefs, this is one of their better offensive outputs, 21-7 over the Browns. They have not played well really offensively all year long, but they continue to win. And I think they're 13-1 now. Texans over the Dolphins 20-12. Cardinals beat the Pats 30-17. Got the Packers playing tonight versus the Seahawks. And, of course, on Thursday, the Rams beat the 49ers. And the Bears will play the Vikings tomorrow night. So there you go.
Nice frozen tundra matchup.
Yeah. We've got a lot to talk about left on the show. I still want to go through some rule bites. In fact, we can right here because we've got BC coming up talking a little Husker football and Husker basketball. Of course, Nebraska basketball wins 85-68 over Indiana to improve to 7-2. They play again on Sunday. They won't play again until Sunday. That was a nice win over Indiana after falling badly to Michigan State. So a great bounce back game. But this is Matt Rule talking about, did I play this one? Excited for the future, Matt Rule.
90, they've doubled down and they've helped us out. And now we have the rev share. Like we're going to have more than most people in college football. And so we have to make really good decisions but the staff that we've added, the people that we've added, people will text me and say, hang in there. I'm like, what are you like, we're 6-6. Like this is we're 6-6. So we got to get better. So I've really I'm be honest, I've really enjoyed it. Now, there's an emotional component of me that loves everyone I coach, and sometimes I worry about some guys making bad decisions. But I knew this was going to be really hard, just getting from 150 down to where we are and still adding the talent that we need to win. And so I see this as great opportunity, and this is a time that we need. So
he talked a lot about, when he arrived in Nebraska, talked about the walk-on program and embracing development and, having a 150-man roster and doing it the old way, like Tom Osborne used to do it with 3 different stations and developing everybody that showed up at practice. That's all gone. Nebraska was the home of the walk-on program. Nebraska started it, as far as I know. I mean, I think of the first walk-on that I fully embraced was Jarvis Redwine. I don't know who your favorite walk-on is of all time. Pick your favorite. There've been so many great ones. Andy Janovich is way up there.
Yeah.
But that's all gone. That's completely gone in college football. If there's going to be occasionally some Luke Reimers that come in, maybe as a recruited walk-on, a preferred walk-on that is talented, and you're going to ultimately give a scholarship.
Yeah,
but the walk-on program as we know it is dead.
It is. You're still going to have a handful of walk-ons because you've got an 85 scholarship limit and 105 rosters. So there's going to be 20 guys that are technically walk-ons, but how many of them are simply going to be guys?
But everybody's going to be making money.
Yeah, the guys that they pay $140,000 plus an extra 100 out of the NIL pool from 1890, and they don't get a scholarship.
Yeah, there's not going to be the guy that is a true walk-on where, he goes to class for 8 hours a day, practices for 4 and lifts weights for 4 and isn't getting a dime and probably has to have a part-time job on top of that. Everybody on the 105-man roster next year is going to get paid $140,000. So you're not really a walk-on in that scenario. But I think there's a piece of Matt Rule that's thinking, you know what? This is like the NFL. I came from the NFL. I didn't do well, but
I failed at the NFL.
He failed at the NFL, but I think there's a piece of him that says, in his brain, that says, you know what? I'm glad I experienced that. I learned a lot from it, and now I can take pieces that I have learned from the NFL to the college game, because that's what it has become.
Well, if
the NFL.
If you're going to be great at anything, you're going to fail a lot. And you're going to learn a lot from your failures. And so, he had in his mind the way he wanted to build it at Carolina. He didn't have any support and help from the ownership group or from the owner. And ultimately his way didn't work. Flip side, there's been changes that you've seen in his philosophy that, give you hope that this is going to work out. The fact that he's, to bring in a brand new offensive coordinator, I don't care if it's Dana Holgerson or not. I don't care if it would have been T.O. 9 games into a season. That's ballsy, and that is doing something out of the ordinary, unorthodox to try to make a difference, to make a positive change. And then his essentially flip on the portal. Yeah, we still want those high school guys, but we need to do damage in the portal now. Whereas before it was like, we're going to be like assassins grabbing these 3 really good guys. Now we need 30 really good guys.
Yeah, he's talking about that a little. He's talked a lot about the portal and how he's going to thrive in the portal. We'll see if he does, but he thinks he will thrive in the portal era. This cut about Dylan Raiola and how the offense can make that particular jump, but Dylan Raiola in particular.
Getting on the same page and Dylan leading that and running. I think when Dylan came in last year, it was like earning his ability to speak. He was in a quarterback competition. I think now, obviously Dylan's the quarterback, and those guys, he can take that and run with it to a whole other level. And I had Joe Brady with me in Carolina. He would talk about the jump that like Joe Burrow made and getting in there with those guys starting day one of the offseason and throwing and catching. And so I think that continuity will be really important. And then Dana's vision for what will be really important. Having everyone on the same page. So that's That's critical. You're only a good head coach when you have great quarterback play.
I
Just on
don't
the same
doubt
page.
for a second that there were other teams, and everybody does it, even though it's illegal. They'll use some guy, not necessarily an agent, but agents are contacted all the time. Would your guy be interested in coming over here? But a lot of times it's a third-party person who just makes the call. Hey, could you give Dylan a call to see if he might be interested in going to Georgia or Alabama or somewhere else? And that's really illegal. You can't do that, but everybody's doing that right now. There's little doubt in my mind that somebody did that this offseason, and it took a while for Dylan to say all in, and he tweeted that earlier this week. But I think there was probably a piece of him that was considering that, and Nebraska probably came in, and this is me not having any knowledge of it, but Nebraska, and this is always going to be the case, that came in and said, you know what, here's a little more money from NIL, and you're already getting revenue sharing, and we have resources, and you've seen the Go Big project, which is phenomenal, the Tom Osborne complex. I mean, all of that. I think Nebraska is well suited going forward, not so much to offer. They don't have Warren Buffett giving them $1 billion, which would be nice. But they do have resources. They have the Pede family, and I think they will compete in this new era of college football. And as much as I hate it, the 105-man roster may not be all bad for Nebraska.
Yeah, the All-In project and the massive facility they have was built for a football team with a roster of 150. So they're going to have a lot of empty space to do even more cool stuff there. Yeah, it's a whole new world. We know that. We knew it was going to be.
I hate it. I don't
necessarily hate it. I wish I'm stunned that there's still no guardrails. That's the one thing that's puzzling.
Well, there are guardrails, and now we know there's revenue sharing. And if you're a Big Ten team, the limit is 140. Well, Nebraska, I think, is $12 million they're going to spend on football exclusively. I think that's what you get for football in the Big Ten.
Well, it's up to the school.
Yeah.
I mean, I kind of doubt that, like in the Big 12, Kansas is going to spend $12 million on football. I think they're going to spend $12 million on basketball.
Right.
So.
Yeah, and that Nebraska, obviously, there were a few players from Kansas City that considered Nebraska and Kansas State. And because of Nebraska's financial situation, they won out. Not because of football, because Kansas State's the better football program. Heck, Kansas is probably the better football program right now. But Nebraska will win those battles because of money and revenue sharing. And I'm hearing that even a lot of schools that have revenue sharing in the Big Ten can't pay it, even with the big TV contracts. We'll see going forward if they're able to. I thought it was interesting the rule mentioned that there are some schools, the poorest of poor, that will jack up the prices for players in college football. They're the ones coming in for the Dylan Raiolas of the world, or the James Williamses, or whoever they might be after. Maybe it's an Emmett Johnson, and say, hey, we'll give you, $2 million or $1 million or whatever to come play here because they desperately need somebody, right? I think there are some schools that are doing that, and that's one of the things that rule said, that those teams, sometimes it's the worst teams that are jacking up the prices for players.
Well, that makes, I get the philosophy, but if it's
that happens in the NFL all the time.
If it's a bad team that doesn't have the money, they're not going to be doing.
No,
I don't.
But sometimes, like the Florida State coming off a really bad year, they might be willing to pay Stephon Thompson, who they've recruited, or James Williams, or other. Obviously, we know Tony White has gone there and is now the defensive coordinator along with Terrence Knighton. Those schools, because they're coming off such a horrific year, might be willing to throw down the cash saying, we've got to win this year.
Well, but at the same time, they've got to have the donors willing to put the money in.
I think Florida State has a decent NIL.
So,
they may not have the revenue sharing that Nebraska has. Yeah.
So, I don't know. I kind of like it. The one thing that I would like to see more than anything is simply contracts.
There has to be.
Yeah.
There has to be.
It's tricky because they're not technically employees. You cannot make them employees. That's the key thing. Because that gets into a whole nother realm.
I think you're going to see players form unions as well.
It very well could happen.
I think unions are coming. I think contracts are coming. I
just want to see good football played by Nebraska.
Yeah. Be nice to see them in the college football playoff. By the way, we're going to go through the games. Our picks of density are on the way. But in the meantime, BC, Brian Christopherson of Husker 24/7. We'll talk a little Husker football and basketball with Brian coming up next.
We'd like to say thank you this holiday season and wish you the best for a happy new year.
May your days be merry and bright. Wishing you a joyful holiday season and a happy new year. Season's greetings from your friends at the Lincoln Chamber of Commerce and Visit Lincoln.
What's up, guys? This is Ted from Summit Lawns. We have so much gratitude to you, Lincoln, for supporting us and allowing us to make Lincoln a beautiful city we can all be proud of. From all of us at Summit Lawns, have a very Merry Christmas.
Hey folks, it's Jack from LNK Today with Jack and Friends. Now, one of the things we love to do during the Husker football season is talk about those traditions and the successes of the program. They've got those things at Daryl's Jewelers too. They've been a family business in the capital city for over 40 years. And Daryl is an importer, a designer, and a master jeweler. He does it all. So when you want only the best hands and the best eyes and the best mind on your jewelry, whether it's something you need repaired or custom designed, Daryl's is the place. You'll find him at Meridian Park, 6900 O Street. And don't forget to tell him Jack sent you.
Peter Herrick was a 34-year-old carpenter when he joined the Navy Reserve. Peter's wife, Diana.
They were deployed to build schools and bases and to assist the Marines.
When the mortar round hit, I was completely knocked out. I didn't wake up until 6 days later.
Paralyzed veteran, Senior National Service Officer, Raymond Bruce.
I saw Pete when he was at his worst. He didn't know if he was going to live to be able to see his daughter graduate from high school.
Raymond knew that I needed help figuring out where do we go from here.
We not only represent the veteran, but we represent the whole family.
11 months, we stayed in the hospital down in Tampa.
We advocate, we educate, and we process claims through the VA, and we follow that claim from the beginning to the end.
Without Paralyzed Veterans of America, I really honestly believe I'd still be in the hospital.
You can help our paralyzed veterans. To learn more, visit pva.org, a public service of Paralyzed Veterans of America.
My name is Juanita Segura, and I was diagnosed in November of 2014 with non-small cell lung cancer. The first time I heard about biomarker testing was actually my husband. He just started researching about lung cancer.
And I found out about biomarker testing, and I'm like, why not? Let's try it.
I'm Dr. Jorge Gomez, thoracic medical oncologist at the Mount Sinai Hospital. Comprehensive biomarker testing is looking for either substances in the blood or mutations in some of the genes of the cancer cells that can help us identify special types of lung cancer that can be treated with what we call targeted therapies.
Letting my children know brought all of us a sense of hope, to give them hope that mom is going to be around to see you grow up. And I promised them that.
Ask your doctor about how comprehensive biomarker testing before treatment may help you and your doctor decide on the best treatment for you. Visit noonemiss.org for more.
A public service message from Longevity Foundation.
Husker Rewind with Tom Stevens and Mike Melby with a combined 60-plus years of broadcasting experience. I guess that means they're really old.
They're going to make him do this till he's 90.
Here's Tom Stevens and Mike Melby on 1499.3 KLIN.
Welcome back. This is Husker Rewind here on 1499.3 KLIN. That's Tom Stevens.
Hello.
I am Mike Melby, and on the Hunt Irrigation Talk and Text line, Mr. Brian Christopherson. BC, how are you?
I'm doing well. How are you guys?
Good.
Doing good.
Finish
That
up
little
some,
lull before Christmas. And
yeah. Have you Christmas? Is your Christmas shopping done, Brian?
No. We got 10 days, right? I mean,
exactly.
I agree. I mean, I'm always that guy that does my shopping on like Christmas Eve, and I end up at Walmart, and everybody gets shaving cream, basically,
and tweezers,
well,
and they like it.
Damn
Damn it!
Yeah, tell them to like it.
Yeah,
can't be complainers.
That's right.
You know.
That's right. So what do you think? Nebraska basketball, they bounced back from that tough loss to Michigan State. It looked really, really bad. Hoiberg said there's a reason we didn't practice well, and he said he had a great week of practice. They had a great week of practice this week. Any surprises that they did bounce back that well against Indiana for you?
I'm not surprised, but man, don't take for granted Bryce Williams. That guy is really good at basketball, and he was just that driving force when you had to have it from your senior. Jawan Gary was there in timely moments, and I thought Essegian stepped up, and I like Andrew Morgan too, what he's getting done with some of his post moves. But Bryce, I mean, he hit some high degree of difficulty shots on his way to those 30 points. He was just a presence even after Indiana's point guard Miles Rice sort of got going downhill. He scored 13 points in 3 minutes. I don't know if people noticed, but Bryce is like, I got him. And he guarded him the next few minutes, and it kind of shut that valve off. So I just thought Bryce did it on all ends. And it was kind of a strange game, though, because Indiana shot 16 more. They had 60 more attempts, lost by 17. So the Indiana writers are trying to figure out how the heck that happened. And they're trying to figure out the hex Nebraska has on Indiana hoops. That's 4 wins
in a row.
Year of 2024. And you know how they're taking that in Indiana. That's sort of like when Nebraska loses to Indiana in football. Even if there's reasons why it makes sense, it's hard for people of a certain age to compute how it happened. So that's a nice little string for Huskers basketball to have that over the Hoosiers.
Well, it is, and the play of Bryce Williams, the defensive effort on Miles Rice was huge at the end, but the back-to-back threes by him and Juwan Gary out of the media timeout, I mean, it was Keisei Tominaga range for Williams with his. I as soon as he pulled up, I'm like, what do you? Oh, okay, there you.
Nice
but
shot.
like, what confidence? And that would have been one where I would have loved to have known if that was a design play, because it kind of looked like it.
Yeah, it was a deep three. I mean, he had a little space and he was feeling it, and that was a tough shot. And then he hits a fadeaway that made it like 80-67 or something like that with about 4 minutes left. That was, I mean, ridiculous. And you could tell the Indiana, guy guarding him was like, all right, it's your night. You can have it, So just excellent stuff from Bryce. And, I think they really took to the challenge they had throughout the week, him and Jawan, from Fred Hoiberg, just said, you have to set the tone for this team. You've got to be the dogs, and they're going to follow you, but you got to be that. And they were. And, this team has had some adversity they've had to deal with already this year. They had the loss to St. Mary's, which was one they thought got away from them, and they had to come back against Creighton, and they really needed to get one of those 2 games. They did. And this was the same deal where it's like, okay, you got to get a split here. You can't sit at 0-2 for the next 3.5 weeks in the league standings. It's just no place to live. And they came and balled out and shot 61.2%, which is the most the best they've shot in like 2 years from the field. And not all easy shots either. So, it was just a funny stat line game. Like Indiana had 15 offensive rebounds to Nebraska's 6. But if you look at second chance points, it was like 10-8. It was basically even. And points off turnovers were the same, even though Nebraska had 5 more turnovers. So even the places where it looked like Indiana was winning the game, they didn't actually win the game, in the final stat columns that matter.
Yeah. BC Brian Christopherson, Husker 24/7, our guest. When Fred arrived at Nebraska, he had Matt Abdelmassi as his GM, and he was getting guys like Teddy Buckets or Bryce McGowans who did have success at times, and it was run and gun. But now they've kind of reinvented themselves. It's almost to the point where it's a little bit of Tim Miles and a little bit of Hoiberg. When do you think the light turned on to Hoiberg when he decided, I can't win that way. I've got to win this way, the Big Ten way?
I think, you got to go back 3 years ago when he built that team that had Sam Grissel and, a few other guys at Bandamel that were, veteran guys of college basketball, and they'd played 4 or 5 years, and they sort of knew what it took to be competitive. And you ask Fred to this day, he would tell you if there weren't a couple injuries on that team, he believes they would have made the NCAA tournament that year too. So they felt like they had a formula coming off of that season. They sort of doubled down on it, I think, the next year. They kind of knew the model of player they wanted and the traits they had to have. And obviously they had success with it last year. And so you look at them now, and, there's 5 or 6 minutes left in a Big Ten game, and you're looking down on the floor. You're like, okay, Bryce Williams has played a ton of college basketball. Raleigh Wooster, same. Jawan, same. You just go through, and it's a bunch of guys. Andrew Morgan's played a lot of basketball. I know it's not all Big Ten basketball, but it does matter that those guys have been in tight games throughout their college career. They know what it sort of takes to stand at the free throw line or doing whatever they're doing with 2 minutes left and to how to function there. And I think that counts for a lot. And also just that mentality of what it takes to go through the marathon of a basketball season. So, we got to be careful. We can't overdo it. There's a long season ahead. They've got to show they have the same chops that last year's bunch did, to get back into where they want to be in March. But that was a big game Friday night. It really was. It felt like it going into the gym. I was a little worried about it with sort of the weather and obviously a good reason with volleyball across town going on, but you just didn't know what the crowd would be like. But they gave the reason for the crowd to jump into that game in the first 4 minutes when they got up 13-3, and they really never let up the intensity, and the crowd, like last year, was in it with them, and that's the way it's going to have to be for this bunch.
Their next set of games is going to be down in Hawaii. They're going to play 3 down there. Obviously, 3-0 coming home with a trophy would be really cool. If they go 2-1, is it okay? And obviously 1-2 is not. What are your thoughts over the tournament down there, the Diamond Head Classic?
2-1 doesn't just rip you apart or anything, but I think they definitely feel like they have the most talent in that tournament, and they want a 3-0 trip. But it's tough. You got to be dialed in. You're going to get to the airport, and they're going to hand you a leg getting off the plane, and you're going to see that weather and all of that stuff and be like, can you focus on basketball amid your setting? And we'll see. It's also kind of a weird setup because you've got 9 days between the next game, but then it's 3 games in 4 days. So it's like you have this pause and then boom, boom, boom. So we'll see how they handle it. And that's why right after the game, I thought Hoiberg was trying to really establish it was a nice win. Let's go do it again this week. Let's work as hard as we did. Our backs were to the wall. He said, when this team gets comfortable, we're not good. We can't get comfortable. And so that's got to be their mentality on this trip, is that they're going for 3 games. Obviously, you got to take them one at a time. But I think 3-0 is definitely the mission. 2-1 doesn't kill you, but 3-0 is a lot better. And if they do get a loss out there, it will ding their net rankings a little bit. And if they get 2 of them, it will really do so.
This league's kind of clustered. You got UCLA, a ranked team, 2-0. You got Michigan at 2-0. Michigan State's 2-0. And then a lot of 1-1 teams with Penn State and Maryland. Purdue is 1-1, but they're 11th ranked in the country. What's your gauge on the Big Ten so far? Is it a good league? Is it a very good league? What do you think?
I think it's going to be a tough league because I judge a league I think sometimes we'll be like, oh, they're down because they don't have 5 top teams, just top tier teams. There's some people who judge it that way. I don't look at it that way. I think it's a very tough league if your middle is really tough. If everybody is sort of the same make, and that every time out there it's going to be a tough game. So we could go back 7 or 8 years when Rutgers hadn't figured it out yet. You used to play Rutgers and you think okay, that's a win, and then they got good, and that became a tough game, and it's remained so. I think people used to think that about Nebraska, obviously. And so Nebraska's become that team that now those others have to deal with. So I think there's a lot of teams that are sort of feeling about the same right now about where they are. They're kind of in that 50 to 90 range, sort of in net rankings and stuff like that. And when you have a bunch of teams like that, you really can't have days where you're off and still expect to win. Much like it has become in football. So I think it is a tough league in that respect because I think the middle is strong.
You got 6 ranked teams in this league. How many, I know it's way early to make this prediction, but how many teams do you think make the NCAA tournament?
Oh yeah, that is hard to say. You're trying to do the math with like the 18 teams now, and like how is the committee going to, sort that out? And it becomes pretty tricky. I think like you want to be in that top half though. So I always say like 8 or 9 is you'd like to be at least in that part of the standings by the end of the year. I think to feel good. Certainly top 7 you feel good, but then like 8, 9, 10 I think could be in that range. So Nebraska, that's why you couldn't start 0-2. Like you don't want to play from behind. And they held serve on their home court. They did what they were supposed to do. A lot of other teams have done the same. So you don't puff out your chest too much about it. But you see like, okay, that's the work ethic it took to win a Big Ten game. Now you got to put that forward every week and really take part in the grind in that fashion to have the success you want.
BC, before we let you go, let's talk a little bit of football. Portal stuff, player-wise, great. Not a ton of commits to Nebraska yet, just a couple. One of them obviously pretty big with Williams and Maury. But let's talk coaches. What are your thoughts on the coaching staff changes Matt Rule has made so far in the offseason? Or not offseason, bowl preparation season.
No. I mean, I like him on paper. That feels like we always say that. Like, yeah, it looks good, right? I mean, you do your searches on like his resume checks out. But, I mean, that experience counts for a lot. When you've got a guy who's been a head coach for 13 years like Dana Holgerson as your OC, and then John Butler, I say, like, I know there's some people felt like the secondary didn't maybe maximize in some games with the veterans they had this year. I thought Rule made a good point at his press conference about the challenge that John Butler faced arriving in the summer, sort of putting his spin on it while also learning an entirely new language over the course of like 4 to 5 weeks. And I've said since he was announced to DC, if he had been hired last offseason prior to the fall, off of his resume and his experience as a former DC at Penn State, but also like his 10 years in the NFL and where his Bills secondaries ranked and how well they did with turnovers and against the pass and all that, I think people would have said Rule nailed it, like off of his resume. They would have liked the hire. So I look at more the totality of his 25, 30 years as a coach, and I think it looks pretty good as opposed to just like a knee-jerk reaction to these games didn't quite match up how you wanted this past fall. So, I mean, they got to go prove it. He's in the big chair now, and you guys know how it is. When you're a coordinator here, you're going to take arrows if it doesn't go well. So he'll have those if they can't respond. But I thought Rule laid out the points. They want to get better on third down. They need to be a little more advanced with some of their maybe their schemes and blitz packages and stuff of that nature when it comes to the money down. And so we'll see if John Butler combined with Phil Snow can bring that. So I like that hire on the surface. And I like the hire of the D-line coach out of Kansas City too, which I know isn't official, but I think most people know is coming. I think they did their research and Rule sort of got trusted advice that this young guy is one of the up and coming coaches. And I talked to DiCaprio Boodle about Terry Braden, the D-line coach, and he said that guy is a dude. Like, I mean, he was a real force like within the Kansas City operation, and like his voice was definitely heard even as an assistant D-line coach. So I think that was a pretty good hire.
One more from me, BC. We know that the walk-on program is basically done. We're going to a 105-man roster. But Rule has said we'll thrive in this new era of college football. Do you ultimately think the 105-man roster is good as far as winning is concerned for Nebraska football?
I think it can be because of I think Nebraska will put as much resources and money into it as most places. Maybe not the very top, but they'll be near the top, like, top 15 at least in like what they devote to being successful. Now that hasn't worked out necessarily over the last 10 years because I think Nebraska's put a lot into things and it still hasn't shown in the win-loss column. But I think Rule feels like 1890 is loaded up pretty well. He likes the situation with rev sharing. And, you heard him the other day. Like, he was not bemoaning the month of December the way some coaches are, or even I would maybe look at it. And I think that's a big part of it. Like, you have to have somebody leading your operation who isn't like looking at it like, man, I wish it were 2017, or I wish it were 1989 again. It's not going to come back that way. And if you have anybody within your walls that is thinking like that, it's okay to have the opinion like, I don't like this compared to what it was, but it is what it is, and deal with it and make the best of it and be more successful than other people with what the parameters or lack of parameters are. And I think that's his plan. And so I think that's what you heard at his press conference the other day. It doesn't matter if I like how it is. This is the way it is, and we're going to do well with it. And so I think that's what you want out of the top guy.
Good stuff, BC. Brian Christopherson, Husker 24/7. Good news. It looks like our Vikings are going to be tied atop of the division. Detroit is going down to Buffalo right now. So
yeah, and there's no way our guys will go screw that up and lose to the Bears.
No, it's never happened before.
Possibly happen. No. Yeah, so.
It's great that all Vikings fans think the same. They think in the negative. They start with the negative. We've been, our hearts have been torn up.
I'll tell you how negative I am. The Rams have won a few games, and so if the Rams had lost on Thursday, the Vikings would have clinched a playoff spot. And when the Rams won, I had a text sent out to my brother like, this isn't good. Like, I was thinking about how we're going to lose 4, the Rams are going to win out, and I stopped myself from sending the text. I'm like, nah, we're not to that point yet. But that's where my Vikings mind goes.
They got to go after Sam Darnold, right? They got to franchise him. I
was joking on radio shows about Sammy D being the MVP before the season started, and little did I know. I knew more than, my sarcasm was actually the truth. That's probably a little far-fetched, but he's having a great year. And so, I do think they got to keep him.
I thought he was going to be terrible. Schaefer's the one that convinced me that he was going to be good. And I guess he was right. So
yes.
Listen
and
to Schaefer.
He's usually a curmudgeon about the Vikings.
Yeah, he usually hates him. He loves him, but he hates him. Good stuff as always, BC. We'll talk to you soon.
Yeah, thanks, guys. Always enjoy being on.
There you go. Brian
Thanks, Brian.
Christopherson, Husker 24/7. We're running way late. Got to get to a break and come back with our picks of density to end the show.
Toughness, strength, passion, results. When your team takes the field, this is what you expect. And if you've been injured, this is what you get when you work with Friedman Law.
We battle it out in the courtroom with the same toughness, strength, and passion for injury victims. Friedman Law suits up against the insurance company and fights hard for the compensation you deserve. Friedman Law, since 1962, helping injured people. It's what we do. It's all we do.
It's that magical time of year. But amidst the festivities, you should celebrate your health too. With all the delicious treats and holiday cheer, it's easy to let healthy habits slip. But just a few simple choices can help you enjoy the season without the stress of extra pounds. Make time for physical activity, eat in moderation, and focus on your well-being. Search Chronic Disease Nebraska to learn more. Paid for by Nebraska DHHS, aired with the Nebraska Broadcasters Association and this station.
This is Captain Kelsey Marino with the Salvation Army here in Lincoln. You may have been wondering why we put a giant tree outside of our building on 26 and Potter. This tree is a beacon of hope to our neighbors in need. Your gift to the Salvation Army this Christmas season brings hope to families right here in our community. Please consider your gift carefully. Mailers are arriving at homes now. Whether you mail us a check or drop your donation in one of the red kettles, know that your gift is making a difference this Christmas for a family in need right here in Lincoln.
Teachers are dynamic leaders, shaping a new generation. They bring a variety of perspectives from diverse backgrounds, innovating how they teach to prepare students for our fast-changing world. Achieving this takes skill and expertise. They're tireless explorers, creatively discovering a universe of solutions, telling stories, experimenting, inspiring, mentoring, connecting cultures, and connecting with each other. Leading by example. Experience the unique joy of helping students thrive. Teaching is a journey that shapes lives. Are you ready to begin? Explore teaching at teach.org, a campaign supported by the U.S. Department of Education, Teach.org, and 1 million teachers of color.
Volunteering is critical to strengthening communities, but it's on the decline, which means now is the time to jump in. You can make a difference every day. It just takes that first step to get involved. Start in your own neighborhood with an organization or cause that's important to you. It's easy to join the movement. Find volunteer opportunities and get actionable steps to drive real and sustained change when you visit pointsoflight.org today.
It's your weekly rundown of Husker sports with Mike Melby and Tom Stevens.
They've done studies, 60% of the time, it works every time.
On 1499.3 KLIN.
Back at it for one final segment here on Husker Rewind. I'm Mike Melby. That's Tom Stevens.
Hey.
And a big thank you to Tanya Taki Dorn, joined us at the top of the show at 5 o'clock. John Baylor jumped on with us, the voice of Nebraska volleyball, at 6 o'clock. And then Brian Christopherson. We just had him on to talk some basketball and some football.
Fun show.
And now it is time for the weight-carrying picks of density.
It's time now for the picks of density.
Cause it's a pick of destiny.
Wait a minute. It says density on here.
I'm your density.
Oh, I get it. Because your picks carry a lot of weight, right?
Ah, man. That's heavy.
All right, let's roll with it. The picks of density.
Let's kick it off. We're only going to go 4 games this week because there's only 4 that matter in college football next weekend, and that is the college football playoff. First time there's 12 teams in. 4 of them got byes: Oregon, Arizona State, Georgia, and Boise State. However, 4 games, 8 teams go at it. Friday night, December 20th, it is Indiana at Notre Dame. These are played on campus. Indiana, the 10 seed, Notre Dame, the 7 seed. The Fighting Irish are favored by 7.5.
I like Notre Dame to win the game, but I like Indiana to cover in this game.
I am going pure gut and hope and just whatever. I despise Notre Dame with every ounce of my being, and I want to see Indiana continue on this magical season. I'm going to take Indiana on the money line.
Ever been to South Bend?
I have not.
It's a kind of a fun town. It's kind of a dirt hole, though. I mean, it's the campus. The campus of Notre Dame is really cool with the College Football Hall of Fame there. At least it was at one time. And the stadium's really cool. But once you go anywhere off campus, it's kind of trash, or at least it was. Went to the game in 2001 where all the Nebraska fans were there. It was great. Nebraska fans just took over the stadium. And, of course, Nebraska won the game.
Which is the most important part.
That's the most important thing.
Saturday, December 21st, 11 a.m. on TNT, college football playoff game number 2, 11th seeded SMU taking on 6th seed Penn State in Happy Valley. Penn State favored by 8.5.
That's a lot of points, but I'm going to take the Nittany Lions, and I'm going to take them to win comfortably over SMU. Didn't like them.
I am as well.
Didn't think they played well against Clemson. They came back, made it a game, almost won the game, but I don't think Clemson's very good either.
No. So we both are going to take Penn State and give the points.
Yes.
The Texas Longhorns are 11.5-point favorites at home against Clemson. This is the 5-12 matchup.
Kind of think they'll run them off the field. That is the Longhorns, number 5 versus number 12. Clemson just kind of backed their way into the college football playoff. I don't think they're a very good team. They dominated SMU and then let them back into that game. I think Texas wins by 20. I really do.
I probably agree with you, but because we cannot have the same picks, I'm going to take go the Fighting Davos, who hates everything about college football these days.
He hates everything.
And I'll take Clemson and
it's like Mikey. He hates everything.
11.5 points. And the final one, 7 p.m. on ABC and ESPN. The 8-9 matchup, Ohio State Buckeyes in Columbus and the Horseshoe taking on the Tennessee Volunteers. Ohio State 7-point favorites.
I think Ohio State still has a bad taste in their mouth after losing to Michigan. I do think that they will hold on and win this game, but I'm going to take Tennessee to cover. I think Tennessee to cover. Not going to pick them outright, though.
This just feels, especially after the fallout following the Michigan loss by Ohio State.
I just think they're in a bad frame of mind.
I think Ryan Day has lost this team, and I think there's potentially a change in Columbus if Ryan Day loses this game, and I think Ohio State loses this game. I'll take Tennessee on the money line with this one.
There you go. I think you're right. I think he's lost this team. Remember all the talk, Urban Meyer saying this is the best collection of talent than we've ever seen?
It is.
And it may be, but they're not well coached. I just don't see Urban Meyer fumbling the team like this.
No. Well, like I said, I saw a team that was probably the most skilled team in Lincoln Stars history that did not make it out of the Western Conference Finals against a team in Omaha that they were far superior to, and it was all coaching. And I've saw
coaching matters.
Yeah, I saw
for sure.
teams that the Stars had that were
and
not.
I don't
the
think
most
Day's
talented.
a bad coach.
No.
I don't think he's a bad coach. I just don't think he's a great coach.
Yeah, he has not been able to handle what's been going on in Columbus. Maybe it's expectations, who knows? But this does not look like a team that is a national championship team.
We haven't talked much about it. We mentioned it in the opening kickoff. Travis Hunter winning the Heisman with 552 first place votes. Ashton Genty from Boise State was second. Dylan Gabriel third. And Cam Ward fourth. It's only the fifth time in this century that a quarterback didn't win. It's kind of become the quarterback trophy.
Yeah, and I think they got it wrong. I really do.
You do?
Yeah, Ashton Genty should have won the Heisman.
I think he was the best player. Last time a quarterback was not in the top two was 2015. Derrick Henry and Christian McCaffrey went 1-2 that year. McCaffrey was second to Derrick Henry. Colorado plays BYU in the Alamo Bowl this year. Remember when Nebraska killed Northwestern in the Alamo Bowl?
Yes, I do.
Years ago. Hunter says that he'll play in that bowl game. I don't think he should. I think he should opt out. I don't know what he's doing. He's the number one overall pick. But he had a great year. Not 1,500 yards, but 1,100 yards receiving, 14 TDs on defense, he had 4 interceptions, 11 pass breakups. He forced a fumble in that Baylor game. Best two-way player of all time, you think?
In college, possibly, but if you're going to be the best two-way player of all time, there's a guy that I can't stand that's his current head coach that I'm going to give that title to. But yeah,
but he plays more. I mean, he plays all the snaps. He played
we'll see what
672 offensive snaps, 688 on defense.
Yeah.
We'll
see what he does in the pros.
I'm not a big fan of his coach. I'm not a big fan of him necessarily, but he's a great player. And if I had the number one pick, I'd take him. We're leaving.
Yeah, we are.
Might be here next week. Who knows?
You never know.
It's
We'll
Christmas
see.
week. We'll talk to you soon. Mike Melby, Tom Stevens. Goodbye.
See you.
Save big money on your next project right now at Menards, your lighting headquarters. Find the perfect lighting for your home with